The signals were all there, but blinded by affection, I completely missed the looming catastrophe. Every warning was present, but my enchantment with her overshadowed everything. When the other danger emerged unexpectedly, I was utterly caught off guard. Enough with the imagery. Let's get straight to the facts. Throughout school, they were constantly around, though you didn't truly distinguish them as two separate individuals. They were Mercedes Koff and Portia Rowan, often referred to as the twins. They were identical in attire, speech, and hairstyle. They might as well have been virtually inseparable, despite no familial connection. They were approachable in their teens, dating boys, but only went out in pairs. If a guy liked one, he had to find a partner for the other. I liked both, but never bothered with the paired dating game. It was too complicated, and the girls were picky. This situation didn't affect me because, at 16, my dad secured me a trade position under my Uncle Harry in London. Get an apprenticeship, and you'll have guaranteed employment, my dad said. So I resided with Uncle Harry and Auntie Mavis in the suburbs. Most of our work was there too, and I spent one day and one evening a week at technical college. Uncle Harry worked me hard, even on weekends, to compensate for college days. My visits home became infrequent, from monthly to barely 3 times a year. By the end of my apprenticeship, my childhood home felt unfamiliar. I'd accumulated funds for an apartment back in my hometown. Employment was readily available with my qualifications, and compensation was generous. I started on a development of 50 new homes, then moved to a minor project transforming a barn. One day, while reviewing blueprints during a tea break, I mentioned an expansive, unadorned wall on the building. The boss presented the architect's sketch and requested my input. I drew modifications I believed would enhance it. Later, I was summoned to the construction office, where the boss, the owner, and the architect were. After a vigorous debate, my revisions were incorporated into the plan. On the day we completed the property transfer, the architect told me, "You possess a natural talent for design. Consider architecture or design." A few weeks later, I enrolled in a part-time college program in architecture. I maintained construction work to fund my education. One day in the college library, I noticed a recognizable young woman. She offered a fleeting smile before resuming her reading. I gazed, attempting to recall her identity. She noticed my gaze, got up, and walked over to me. She turned my textbook, remarking, "It's easier to read this way, Roger." I looked up, astonished. "Mercedes, you're so different. Is that a compliment?" "Of course. But, and Portia?" I asked. "She's completing an internship in America. We were supposed to be there together, but my opportunity didn't materialize. I decided to improve my Spanish skills here." We chatted until the librarian quieted us, then relocated to the cafeteria. By the time she had to go to class, we had arranged to meet later that evening. I took her home in my aging van, which I used for tools and my extra work. When I parked outside her affluent residence, I pondered her parents' impression. We remained in the van, conversing about college, until I invited her for tomorrow evening. Her response, "That sounds lovely, Roger. I haven't been out since Portia departed," contained a subtle detail I overlooked then. I reached her home at 7:30 that Friday. Her father answered, scrutinizing me as if I were an intruder. He glanced at my van with clear disapproval. Inside, I encountered her mother and younger sister, Estelle, whom I recognized from school. They were gracious, but her father evidently disliked me, typical paternal protectiveness, in my opinion. When Dee appeared, I was stunned. I'd known her since childhood, and though I'd observed her attractive features and physique just yesterday, I was utterly unprepared for the breathtaking woman who entered that night. She moved with effortless grace, leaving me speechless. That evening, we visited a nearby pub featuring live music and a dance area. We shared a few dances, but primarily conversed throughout the evening. I don't recall our specific topics, but we consistently found common ground on nearly everything, except for Portia. I held no real interest in Portia, yet feigned it for Dee's sake, as she visibly missed her constant companion. Our initial outing led to subsequent ones, and within a month, Mercedes and I were constantly together. Outside of academics and employment, we spent all our time together. Dee would wait for me by my van after evening courses and join me for midday meals. I was utterly captivated, and she appeared to reciprocate my feelings. Dee and I became intimate after 3 months of dating. She couldn't take oral contraceptives, so we relied on alternative protection, which occasionally dampened the intimacy. Nevertheless, we discovered other ways to please each other. Dee maintained regular contact with Portia, but I failed to grasp its impact on our bond. Dee's intimate preferences evolved. Initially, she showed no interest in oral intimacy, but by February she was keen to experiment and soon grew very enthusiastic. We began discussing engagement and marriage with earnestness. I purchased her a ring in late July, intending to marry after her final exams the next summer. Dee's mother was overjoyed, but her father believed she deserved someone better than a builder. Estelle, her sister, candidly proposed I marry her instead. In early August, Portia came back from the U.S. with her American boyfriend, George Greenlake. I found him disagreeable. He was loud and opinionated. One evening, I arrived home to find Dee in my apartment, looking upset, with 3 coffee cups on the table. I said I'd quickly change so we could leave. She then exclaimed, "You can't go in there yet. Portia and George are in our bed." "Like hell they are," I declared, a fitting response. I firmly believe a man's home is his sanctuary, and my bed is its most private space. This sentiment probably arose from finding a stranger in my bed at my parents' house after leaving Uncle Harry's. They must have heard my shout as Portia and George entered the kitchen moments later, still dressing. Despite their apologies, they left the sheets unchanged and the bed unmade. Dee insisted they hadn't sought her permission. Their arrogant behavior confirmed her statement. They carried themselves as if they were royalty. During George's visit, the 4 of us spent time together. Portia usually borrowed her father's car since my van only seated 3 in the front. I declined to ride in her father's car because George was driving. Away from her home, Dee always chose to ride with me. One night, I observed with grim amusement as George exited a pub car parked directly into a bus. My horn blast helped the bus driver halt, preventing extensive damage. George, a foreigner, had mistakenly driven on the wrong side. He lacked insurance and an international license, though police accepted his US-1. After Portia's father arrived, I drove Dee home. George returned home the following weekend. September came fast. My old van became essential for transporting Portia and Dee's belongings to their university flat. Portia, surprisingly, was content to ride in my van once her items were loaded, especially after her father found his new car damaged and refused to drive her. Soon, the girls departed. I missed Dee, but not Portia. Despite our long relationship, I'd only been invited to Dee's house for a meal once, primarily to request her father's blessing for our marriage. The week after the girls moved out, Dee's mother invited me for Sunday lunch. I connected well with her mother and sister, who still adored me. Her father even began calling me son and suggested golf, a sport I assumed I'd learn to appease my future in-laws. I suspected these invitations had a hidden agenda. When Dee visited monthly, we spent considerable time at her parents' home. I was now a frequent and accepted guest. Most weekends, Portia joined us, discussing George and her post-graduation marriage plans. Portia often accompanied Dee home, spending most of her time wherever Dee was, including my apartment. By Christmas, wedding preparations were in full swing. Dee's mother and Estelle handled all arrangements, with Dee and me simply agreeing. Dee's father covered expenses. I'd ask, "Are you comfortable with this, Frank?" He'd nod, replying, "Just wait until it's your turn, son. Only have boys." He was a decent man. Estelle viewed our wedding as practice for her own grand event. Frank would always raise an eyebrow at this. Everything progressed smoothly until after Easter, when George abruptly ended things with Portia, leaving her for someone else, confirming his thoughtless nature. Portia wasn't my favorite, but I saw that breakup letter. It was harsh. A few weeks later, Dee proposed delaying our wedding because Portia was distraught. The girls graduated, returned home, and both quickly secured positions at local banks. I continued to balance college and work, often operating independently or with a small team. Initially, I saw Dee almost daily, but she began spending more time with Portia, eventually 3 nights a week. Dee stopped meeting me after my evening classes. We pushed our wedding to after Christmas, then to Easter. I remained patient, but it seemed our marriage hinged on Portia finding a new partner. In early December, I arrived to pick up Dee around 7:30, but she and Portia weren't home and hadn't contacted me. I located her car at a pub on the town's edge. Inside, Dee and Portia were with some fellow, captivated by his chatter. I sat distant, observing them dine and converse, noting Dee consumed only non-alcoholic beverages. When they departed around 9, Dee spotted my van. She re-entered, searching for me. "Roger, how long have you been here?" she asked. "Since about 8. My fiancée left me waiting, so I had a quiet drink," I replied. "Why didn't you join us?" she questioned. "You didn't want me there, did you? If you had, you would have called. Was it some secret rendezvous?" I countered. "How can you suggest that?" Dee retorted defensively. "Rodney invited Portia, and she didn't want to go alone. Why no call to me or your mother?" I pressed. "I forgot," she stated. "Well, I forgot to tell you I was here. Now, drive your friends home and drop the fool off first." "I don't trust him," I ordered. "Who are you calling a fool?" he challenged. You slippery jerk," I shot back. He had boasted all evening about his toughness, but when we stepped outside, he fled after attempting to slam the door in my face. "Did you have to do that?" "Portia liked him," Dee demanded. "I didn't do anything." He talked himself into a confrontation, then ran. I simply came out for a drink after being stood up. "Good night," I said. I returned to the bar to finish my drink. Dee came back inside briefly to speak quietly with Portia. Then they left. The following evening, I didn't collect Dee as usual. She let herself into my apartment around 8:30. "Why didn't you pick me up?" "We were going to see that movie," she asked. "Oh, I forgot," I answered. "Don't be ridiculous. This is about last night, isn't it?" she accused. "It's about us and your bond with Portia," I clarified. "What does Portia have to do with it?" she asked, bewildered. "If she wasn't around, we'd be married by now. But you've delayed our wedding because Portia hasn't found anyone. I'm not waiting any longer. The wedding is in February, or it's canceled. And you'll only see Portia 2 nights a week, on the evenings I'm at college," I declared resolutely. "You can't impose such conditions," she protested. "I can. I'm supposed to be the man you want to marry, but you care more about Portia. Consider what you truly desire, and tell me tomorrow night. If you're not here by 9, it's over. You can keep or sell the ring," I concluded. Dee attempted to sway me, but my patience was exhausted. When I returned from work, Dee's home called incessantly. I ignored it. At 9, I departed for a friend's apartment to watch a film. Dee arrived with Portia and the man from the pub. She searched my apartment, found it empty, and then they all left. Dee later returned alone. My friends suggested I speak with Dee, but I believe she had made her decision. Around midnight, Dee came back with Portia. Neither of them left by morning, and I couldn't exit my friend's apartment unnoticed. I wanted them to wonder about my whereabouts. They were probably trying to outweight me, knowing I'd require my van. I contacted an employee and had him drive my van to the construction site. The girls pursued the van, thinking I was driving. Then, I entered my car, which Dee was unaware of. I drove to a house I had purchased for our married life, still undergoing renovations. Each time the wedding date was postponed, work on the house suffered delays. I spent the night at the house. The next day was a college day, and I couldn't miss it. Despite my successful building projects and healthy income, I still aspired to become an architect. Having the car Dee didn't know about proved invaluable that day. I saw both girls at college but kept my distance. If Dee had been by herself, I might have approached her, but Portia's presence discouraged me. That evening, I called the apartment. Brian had informed me that Portia had left Dee alone. "Roger, where are you?" Dee asked. "That's not your concern," I replied. "Roger, I'm sorry, but I couldn't let Portia go to that concert by herself. But she wasn't alone. She had that man with her. Or was he with you? He's Portia's boyfriend, you know that. I'm your girl. You were. Not anymore." "Did you tell your mother to confirm the February wedding date?" "No, I didn't. You were acting so oddly. You're the one behaving strangely. Last night was your opportunity to choose between Portia and me. You picked her. It's over. The engagement and wedding are off. Goodbye, and please leave the apartment neat. I no longer reside there, as you've likely observed." "Where are you living, Roger?" "In the house I purchased for our wedding, but you decided not to live here with me. Goodbye, Dee." I ended the call. The following evening, Dee's parents visited me. They were aware of the house, as I'd shared most details with them. Though my relationship with Dee's father remained strained, they kept my secrets regarding the car and house. They understood my stance and hoped Dee's feelings for me would eventually separate her from Portia. That never occurred. It was a somber farewell, and they wished me well. They never informed Dee about the house or their visit, believing she would always be swayed by Portia. Dee attempted to speak with me over the subsequent months, but always with Portia present. I declined to speak to her while Portia was there. Dee continued telling people we were engaged, which created difficulties. I was trying to move forward and began dating other women, though without much success. One woman, seeking a serious commitment, overheard Dee asserting we were still engaged. This led to a confrontation. After that, I heard no further claims from Dee about our engagement. Months passed, and by the end of that academic year, I gave up my aspiration of becoming an architect. Officially, it was because my construction business was thriving, which was true. I had established a reputation for excellent work. However, the true reason was Dee had enrolled in a design course. Seeing her name on the roster prompted my decision not to register. Instead, I concentrated on my expanding business and soon became one of the most esteemed small builders in town. I didn't encounter Dee or Portia much. Estelle visited sometimes, subtly suggesting she could fill Dee's place in my life. While I liked her, I knew it wouldn't be viable, as I'd constantly run into Dee. Thus, I distanced myself from Estelle. Almost 2 years after my separation from Dee, I reconnected with Shirley, an old-school acquaintance. Shirley was delightful, and we quickly fell in love. 8 months later, we had a small wedding. Soon after, Shirley received a cancer diagnosis. It went into remission following chemotherapy, but we constantly worried about its recurrence. Over the next 5 years, I devoted myself to Shirley and my business. Despite her illness, Shirley blessed me with 2 wonderful daughters. In our 5th year, Shirley's cancer returned fiercely, and chemotherapy proved useless. She opted to cease treatment, spending 3 more years with us before she passed. Our daughters, aged 6 and 7, supported me through the funeral and wake. Shirley had prepared them admirably. My company had renovated Shirley's church, including rebuilding a wall and securing a grave plot near the main entrance for her. Though not religious, I desired Shirley's resting place to be in an active area. One day, I'll join her there. At my home after the funeral, I was astonished to see Dee's father, Frank, and Estelle. They offered their sympathies, explaining Dee's mother was unwell in the hospital and couldn't attend. A few days later, I visited her in the same ward Shirley had occupied. Though she was recovering, I never learned the nature of her illness. Catherine, as she insisted I call her, asked me to bring my daughters to see her once she was home. Apparently, she had often spoken with Shirley in her final days. Catherine informed me that Dee no longer lived at home, so there was no chance of encountering her. 3 weeks later, I took my daughters to meet Catherine and Frank, who quickly became like grandparents. Estelle visited often, and my neighbors assumed we were romantically involved until her boyfriend, Russell, also started coming over. He was keen to marry Estelle, but she kept him waiting, much like Dee had treated me. Estelle and Russell were incredibly helpful with the girls, prompting me to reconsider hiring a nanny. One day, Russell voiced his frustration about Estelle's reluctance to commit to marriage. I advised Estelle to embrace the chance with Russell, unlike what had transpired between Dee and me. Her enigmatic reply was, "You truly don't know, do you?" Eventually, Estelle agreed to marry Russell and asked me to be his best man. I accepted, aware Dee would be present, but not wanting to cause Estelle any anxiety. On a bright June day, I stood with Russell at the altar while my daughters served as bridesmaids. During the ceremony, Portia and George arrived late, causing a stir. Estelle muttered crap, which, thanks to her microphone, the congregation heard. The service proceeded without further incident. Afterward, as we exited the church, Catherine turned to me and said, "We never imagined they'd have the nerve to show up. We thought sending an invitation was safe since they live in America." As we neared the rear of the church, I saw Dee seated with a few other women. She looked unhappy, and her presence startled Catherine, who paused briefly before continuing with a smile and nod toward Dee. Dee and I avoided eye contact. Clearly, something had transpired within the family that I was unaware of. Outside, during the obligatory photo session, I noticed Dee wasn't in the lineup. Estelle tried to wave her over, but Dee didn't move. Estelle then gestured to me. Understanding her silent plea, I discreetly went behind Dee, took her arm, and guided her into position. "Smile," I whispered firmly. "This is your sister's wedding." "What do I have to smile about?" Dee replied. "A lot more than my wife had. That was her grave you nearly stepped on back there." Dee apologized, and I reminded her she had much to be thankful for. An usher handed me a small bouquet, which I gave to Dee before returning to my spot. Dee managed a smile, though she still seemed downcast. After the photos, I began ushering guests into limousines for the reception. My daughters demanded hugs and compliments for their good behavior. I noticed their bouquets were gone, likely given to Dee, who had vanished back into the crowd, which was a relief. Portia approached to greet me, but I had no interest in her or George's narrative. Before leaving, I visited Shirley's grave. There were now 3 small bouquets beside the larger one I'd placed earlier. I spoke to Shirley, as I always did, despite not believing in an afterlife. It's peculiar how we address loved ones as if they can hear us, isn't it? At the hotel reception, Dee's presence was clearly unforeseen. After Catherine left the greeting line, she hastily rearranged the top table seating to accommodate Dee. I assisted but refrained from asking about the family situation. After the meal and speeches, I expected to relax. Being a best man involves more than one anticipates, and I was unprepared for Russell's speech. He revealed Estelle had harbored a crush on me for years and thanked me for persuading her to marry him instead. In my speech, I mentioned knowing Russell for only a few months, but assured everyone, based on my daughter's approval, that he was a fine match for Estelle. Once the speeches concluded, the dancing began. Estelle and Russell started, followed by the parents, then me with the bridesmaids. My daughters and I danced, making it a lively foursome. Estelle and Russell joined us, creating a unique waltz. Dee sat with her friends, apart from the family table. Later, Estelle asked me to dance, and I seized the opportunity to inquire about Dee. Not now, Roger. Meet me in reception in 10 minutes, and I'll explain. Someone might overhear us here. After our dance, I saw Estelle speak with Russell, who nodded. She then went to the ladies' room, which had another door to the foyer, so I met her there. We sat in a corner, and she began to clarify. When you and Dee broke up, Mom and Dad were furious with her. They always worried about her relationship with Portia, not physically, but due to Portia's influence. They were thrilled when you came along, but Frank wasn't outwardly enthusiastic about me. Dad actually thought you were incredible but played the proud father role, not wanting to scare you off by being too eager. He's the one who always praised your construction abilities. When Dee started delaying the wedding, we all warned her she'd lose you. When you called it off, it was because of Dee and Portia. Portia kept telling Dee she could do better and to make you wait. Dee couldn't see how Portia was manipulating her. Why did you invite Portia to your wedding? We had to. Her father is a business partner of Dad's. We didn't actually think they'd show up. What happened with Dee and the family? A year after you broke up with Dee, George asked Portia to marry him, and they moved to the States. Dee was abandoned and realized how Portia had used her. She lost the only man she loved for a friend who then left her. Dee had a breakdown after that. She believed you'd return to her. But your marriage to Shirley crushed that hope. She blamed the family and had to go to a clinic. Afterward, she moved to London, feeling too guilty to face us and not wanting to run into you and Shirley. We cut you off to avoid accidentally revealing anything. We rarely saw her. When Mom met Shirley in the hospital, they spoke extensively. Shirley asked Mom to look after you and the girls, Estelle explained. Why was your mom so surprised to see Dee today? I asked. Dee came down for my bachelorette party and looked better than she had in years. We were getting along until someone mentioned you were the best man. Dee said she couldn't attend if you were here, so we assumed she wasn't coming. Mom rearranged the seating to cover for her absence, Estelle replied. But you only had to say, and I would have stepped aside, I said. We know, Roger. You're a wonderful person, but we couldn't disappoint the girls. They were so excited to be my bridesmaids, weren't they amazing? Estelle asked. Yes, I was very proud of them. Their mother would have been proud too, I said. I'm sure she would have. I wish I could have known her. From what Mom says, she was a brave woman, and lucky to have you, Estelle said warmly. Anyway, the girls must have persuaded Dee. They worked on her all yesterday. Now, I need a favor. You can say no, Estelle said hesitantly. On your wedding day, I couldn't refuse you anything. What's the favor? I asked. I want you to dance with Dee. Russell has danced with her, but she won't join the family table, partly because you and the girls are there. She won't refuse you. Thanks for getting her in the photos, by the way, Estelle requested. I'll do anything for you, but what if Dee won't dance or makes a scene? I asked, concerned. Russell and I have a plan. He'll ask Dee to dance when we go back in, and you'll dance with me. We'll accidentally bump into each other and switch partners. Dee won't refuse once you're dancing with her. After the song, bring her to the family table. I'm sure she won't leave once she's there, Estelle explained the strategy. Are you sure this is a good idea, Estelle? I asked, unsure. Honestly, I don't know, but Dee needs to see that we don't hold a grudge, and hopefully you don't either. Things were going well at my hen party, until you were mentioned. I'm hoping your presence will help, Estelle admitted. All right, let's do it. Lead the way, I agreed. Oh, Roger, don't be like that, Estelle said with a laugh. I'm just teasing you, I responded with a smile. By the way, Mom's coming to see you tomorrow morning. She has something for you. You'll be in, right? Estelle asked. Yes, the girls are so excited, they'll probably be up all night, I assured her. Estelle took my arm, and we headed back into the hall. The band started playing a waltz, and we joined the dancers. I saw Russell guiding Dee toward us. The slight contact and swift partner exchange caught Dee off guard. She stiffened when she realized she was dancing with me. Come on, Dee, relax, I urged gently. She did relax, almost too much, leaning heavily against me. As the waltz concluded, I half carried her to a chair by her mother. Frank sat on her other side, while I joined my daughters. The band was loud, so I couldn't hear their conversation, but it was good to see Dee talking to her parents. Around 11, I decided to take my girls home. It was past their bedtime, and they'd had a long day. Estelle and her mother kissed us goodnight, and my girls, though they kissed Dee too, didn't seem to recognize her. The next morning, we awoke late. The girls were already up, eager to swim. They wouldn't enter the pool without an adult, a rule Shirley had established. Just before noon, Catherine and Frank arrived. We greeted them, and it was evident my girls had bonded with them. My parents favored my brother's children, and Shirley's parents lived far away, so the girls hadn't connected with them as deeply. After everyone settled with cold drinks, Catherine requested to speak privately. Frank remained with the girls. I led Catherine to the lounge, where we could still see the children and Frank playing. Catherine retrieved an envelope from her bag. Shirley asked me to give this to you 6 months after she anyway. She wrote some herself and dictated the rest to me when she became too weak. I took the envelope and began to open it. I'll go outside while you read it. If you need to talk, I'm here. I unfolded the letter, written partly in Shirley's fading handwriting and partly in Catherine's neat script. Hey, lover boy, the letter began. How are you and our girls doing without me? By the time you read this, I'll have been gone for 6 months. I asked Kathy to hold on to it for that long before giving it to you. This is very hard for me to write. I'm not sure what I want to say or how to say it. Please forgive me if it doesn't come out right. Roger, I feel guilty, not just for leaving you, but also for marrying you in the first place and bringing all my problems into your life. We had only been dating a couple of weeks when the doctor gave me the news. It took me some time to decide whether to tell you or not. I was scared you'd stay with me out of a mistaken sense of obligation. You know, you're that kind of man. But I must tell you, I loved you, and I know you loved me for who I was. When you encouraged me to have the girls, even though you knew you'd likely raise them alone, I knew it wasn't pity but real love. I'm sorry I can never repay you for all the love you've shown me, Roger. I have loved you more than any man I've ever known. I know you don't believe in an afterlife, but I hope one day you'll be proven wrong and we'll meet again there. That's the hardest part over with. Now, I need you to think about the rest of your life and our girls' lives. I have a big favor to ask. Please find another mother for our girls. They will need a mother as they grow older, and you will need a companion. Having met Catherine, I think I know the best candidate, and I think you know too. Catherine has told me a lot about Mercedes and you, and what happened between you two. From what Kathy has told me, I'm sure Mercedes did and still does love you. She was under that terrible girl's influence. I know it's not nice to say, but that worked out in my favor, even though I know it upset you at the time. They say fate works in mysterious ways. Please consider finding Mercedes again. Show her the compassion and love you've shown me in the last few years. Hopefully, she will love you and my girls as much as I do. Roger, I know she loves you. At this point, the letter transitioned to Catherine's handwriting. Catherine and Frank have become good friends of mine since I've been in the hospital this time. I've also gotten to know Estelle, who visited me the other day. Estelle loves you too. God, you are a lucky man. All these people whose lives you've touched love you. Kathy assures me she will keep a friendly eye on you and our girls. You know they don't have any grandchildren yet, and they assure me they will treat our girls as if they are their own. Please let them do that no matter what happens. Kathy has been a good friend to me during these long, lonely nights. Anyway, if all goes well and you do as I hope, Catherine and Frank will be the girls' true grandparents. I can't think of anything else to say. Thank you, Roger, for loving me, and remember, if I can, I will always watch over you and the girls from wherever I am. Goodbye, my love. Till we meet again. Shirley. The signature, with 8 crosses beneath it, one for each year we were together, was in Shirley's shaky hand. I sat and wept for I don't know how long before Catherine returned to the lounge with a cup of tea for me. I can only assume she'd been watching me read the letter through the lounge window. I suddenly realized I couldn't hear the girls playing in the garden anymore. I must have looked around in a panic. It's all right. Frank took them out for ice cream. It's warm enough for swimsuits today, Catherine said reassuringly. Thanks, Catherine. You know what's in this letter, don't you? I asked. Yes, but you don't have to follow Shirley's suggestions about Mercedes. The letter is private, and I'll keep it confidential, Catherine replied. Thank you, Kathy. What do you think of Shirley's ideas? I inquired. I won't advise you, Roger. I'm Mercedes' mother, so I'm biased. It's your decision, but you should get to know Mercedes again before deciding, Catherine responded cautiously. Dee might not want to marry me anymore. It's been years, I said, expressing my worry. I'm trying not to influence you, but Dee said yesterday how lovely your girls are and wish they were hers, implying she regrets not marrying you, Catherine shared. I understand. I still have strong feelings for Dee. Leaving her was the hardest thing I've ever done. I had to force myself to be angry with her. I'm not sure I can let go of those feelings, I confessed. Are you going to try? Catherine asked softly. Of course. It was Shirley's last request. But I need to know Dee socially again and see how the girls get along with her before considering a relationship, I explained. You're right. The children must come first, Catherine agreed. Yes, we need to see if they connect with Dee naturally, I said, emphasizing the importance of the children's feelings. Exactly. We can't let them feel someone is replacing Shirley. It would be a disaster. I don't want to hurt Dee again if the children aren't happy. I couldn't do that to her, Catherine added thoughtfully. Catherine kissed my forehead. Shirley knew you well. She always said you were the most thoughtful person she knew, she said with affection. I blushed. How are we going to get the girls together with Dee? I asked, attempting to change the topic. They mentioned missing your old pool parties. Why not host one in a couple of weeks? Dee is coming down for a family gathering after Estelle and Russell return from their honeymoon. It's meant to rebuild family connections. If you host a pool party, Frank and I can help with the cooking. Dee would come without knowing and might stay even if she's embarrassed. You'd be busy with guests, and Estelle and Russell could entertain the kids. We'll see how Dee interacts with them, Catherine suggested. Sounds good. The girls have mentioned pool parties, but without Shirley, it feels different. She was the heart of every party, I admitted. Shirley would love the idea. Remember, she wanted you to find another mother for the girls, Catherine reminded me. 2 weeks later, I woke to hear my daughters talking downstairs. Dragging myself from bed, I found Estelle and Russell unloading a car filled with party supplies. It was then I realized how much effort Shirley had put into these pool dues, as she called them. They had brought many items I'd overlooked, things I'd never had to consider before. Estelle later told me that Catherine had been given a list of forgotten items by my girls when she called the previous evening. I wondered why the girls hadn't pointed out my oversights. When I asked, they said I'd be too busy. The lawns need mowing before any guests arrive. Do as you're told, Roger, and don't ask questions, I thought. I told you Shirley had trained them, and me, well. Just after lunch, some of my workers began to arrive with their wives and girlfriends, as did some neighbors with their children. Catherine and Frank arrived around 1:30 with a very quiet Dee in tow. She seemed embarrassed to see me at first, but soon was playing with Estelle and the children in the pool. I think she was wearing one of Estelle's swimsuits. It looked familiar. I spent most of the day mingling, often with Russell as company. I think I heard almost every detail of their honeymoon, except for the private moments. I speculate they didn't leave their bed for the first 2 days because Russell didn't mention those. It's funny how sometimes what people don't say is the most revealing. Around 9 in the evening, I thought it was time for the kids to go to bed. Russell nudged me as Dee went upstairs with Estelle to settle them. Half an hour later, when the two sisters returned downstairs, I went up to kiss my girls goodnight. Is that really her, Daddy? My oldest asked, as soon as I entered their bedroom. Who are you talking about? I asked. Is she going to be our new mother? The younger one explained. Hold on, where did you two get the idea that there is going to be a new mommy? I asked, puzzled. Don't be silly, Daddy. Mommy told us a long time ago that you'd find another mother for us, my oldest replied confidently. Oh, she did she? And what else did your mommy tell you that she didn't tell me? I inquired. She said that Estelle's sister would probably be our new mother. We were to help you catch her, the younger one added. Catch her? What did she mean by that? I asked, intrigued. Mommy said Dee got away the first time, and if you got friendly with her again, we should help you catch her, my oldest explained. Oh God, Shirley, you've truly set me up, haven't you? I muttered to myself. Sorry, Daddy. I couldn't hear what you said, my youngest said. Oh, nothing, girls. I was just offering a prayer to your mother. Now give me a kiss goodnight, and we'll talk about things tomorrow, I said, trying to stay composed. Is Dee coming over again? We like her, my youngest asked. I don't know, baby. She might, I replied. Well, if she doesn't come over, can we visit her? My oldest asked hopefully. There comes a time in everyone's life when you have to admit you're facing an unwinnable situation and surrender. I figured this was my moment. Okay, girls, if Dee doesn't come to see us tomorrow, we will go see her. Now, will you both please go to sleep? I said, giving in. Good night, Daddy, they said in unison. I'm certain I heard them giggle as I left the room. When I reached the stairs, I sat down on the top step. I could hear the party ongoing outside and someone in the kitchen. For a little while, I needed some time alone to think about what my girls had said. Blast it, don't talk nonsense, you simpleton. You've got to think about everything since Shirley passed on. You've been drifting along without much thought about anything, a little voice in my head seemed to say. It was obvious my girls liked Dee from the moment they saw her. I remembered how they looked at her at Estelle's wedding. The question was, did I still like Dee? What a foolish question to ask myself. Like her? I loved her. Well, I did once, didn't I? Although I pushed Dee away because I didn't want to share her affections with Portia. Well, Portia isn't in the picture anymore, but my girls are. Yeah, I think I could see myself sharing my girls with Dee. Hey, how did that question get turned around? And if I think back, what was it Shirley had said to me more than once? Half of you is enough for me, Roger. What did Shirley mean by that? Had I never given Shirley all my love? Did she know there was a place in my heart for Dee? Damn, that woman could read me like a book. Blast it, why does life have to be so complicated? Wouldn't it be nice to be one of those people who see everything in black and white? I have so many different thoughts at once. Right, Roger, let's think this out logically. Do you love Dee? Yes, I'm sure I do. Do the girls love Dee? They've just met her, but they certainly seem to like her. There isn't much to dislike about Dee, but they can't love her yet. They have only just met her. But they do seem prepared to accept Dee as a surrogate mother without question. Now, does Dee like the girls? From what I saw by the pool, she's really taken with them. No, I don't think that was an act. Dee's mind doesn't work that way. No, Dee was having a great time with my girls. I could see them bonding quickly. Now the big one. Does Dee still love you? Well, there's only one way to find out, you silly fool. Go and ask her. Back outside, most of the remaining guests sat in a large circle on the patio by the pool. Russell ensured everyone's drinks were replenished, while Frank meticulously cleaned the barbecue. I believe Frank was a more diligent cook than I ever was. As I approached the circle of chairs, Catherine rose and came toward me. Mercedes and Estelle are in the kitchen, tackling some of the washing up. This might be a good time for you to speak with Mercedes alone while she's occupied at the sink. Don't worry, Estelle will discreetly vanish when you enter, Catherine suggested. Between you and my two girls, you're planning to get Dee and me married off pretty quickly, aren't you? I asked with a hint of amusement. Roger, I can assure you none of us have said anything to Mercedes about you two getting back together, but I'm afraid the girls were asking her some embarrassing questions earlier. We weren't expecting that, Catherine admitted. So I gather. I think Shirley had been planning this for a long time. I just wish she'd let me in on it. Tell me, Catherine, how long did you know Shirley? You didn't just meet her on her last day in the hospital, did you? I probed. Well, no, Roger. We met at the cancer support group. Didn't you know? Catherine revealed. No, Shirley never discussed what happened there. So she was planning this reconciliation between Dee and me for some time then? I asked, feeling a mix of surprise and realization. To be honest, Roger, I don't really know when she found out who I was. Shirley asked me about you and Dee. I told her the truth as I saw it, but she did say to me more than once that if you two got back together, she wouldn't have to worry about you and the girls, Catherine explained. Damn it, I know for sure now that Shirley knew me far better than I know myself, I said with a sigh. Woman's intuition, Roger. You chose a wonderful wife in Shirley. Now, why don't you go have a quiet word with Mercedes? Catherine encouraged. I went into the kitchen where Dee was washing and Estelle was drying. I took the drying cloth from Estelle before Dee realized I had entered the room. For a few minutes, Dee kept washing and placing things on the draining board, and I dried them. Then she suddenly stopped. She must have seen my arm taking the plate she just put down. She turned and looked at me. Long time since we've done this together, Dee, I said. Dee didn't reply. She just looked at me. I placed the plate in the rack and held out my hand for the next one. Dee passed me the dirty plate she was about to wash. Shouldn't it go in the water first? I asked with a smile. Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't thinking, she said as she took the plate back and started to wash it. I'd say you were thinking, but not about the washing up. Dee, tell me, what were you thinking? I asked gently. Do you really want to know? She asked, her voice trembling. I wouldn't ask if I didn't want to know, I replied sincerely. I was thinking what a bloody idiot I am, she confessed. And why is that? I asked, my heart pounding. Well, I had the chance to spend the rest of my life with you, and I threw it away. How could I have been that stupid? Dee said, her eyes filling with tears. Maybe you weren't stupid, Dee. My wife Shirley was a believer. Not that I've ever been, but she always did say fate moves in mysterious ways. Perhaps if he does exist, and I'm not saying he does, he had a job for me to do before we got married. Now I think that job is over. And there's a job for you to do now, I said, trying to find the right words. And what's that? Dee asked, looking confused. Well, there are 2 little girls upstairs who are missing a mother. They seem to think you were the chosen one, I said softly. Dee looked at me with a confused expression. Let's put it this way. They had some nice new dresses they wore as Estelle's bridesmaids, and now they want to wear more as your bridesmaids, I explained. Roger, are you asking me to marry you? Dee asked, stunned. Well, no, I don't have to ask you that question. I asked you that question years ago. I'm still waiting for you to name the blessed day, I said, trying to lighten the mood. Wrong thing to say. 2 plates got broken. The one Dee was washing when she dropped it as she almost fainted, and the one I dropped as I went to catch Dee before she fell. The sound of the plates breaking brought Catherine and Estelle into the kitchen from the hall, followed by 2 little girls who should have been in bed. I had a nasty suspicion they were all eavesdropping out there, and Frank came running in the back door from the garden. The scene they walked into was me holding Dee in my arms. Catherine and Estelle started crying. My girls, who had big grins on their faces, couldn't understand why they were doing that, nor could they understand why their daddy and Dee had started crying either. I thought you 2 were in bed asleep, I managed to say to them once I'd got my emotions under control. Come on, I'll take you back up, I offered. No, Roger, I'll do it. I've got to get used to looking after them, Dee said as she extracted herself from my embrace. Come on, girls, we've got lots to talk about, she added, taking their hands. Catherine worked miracles, and a month later, it was our wedding day. Russell and I got to the church early, and I asked him to wait while I had a word with Shirley. I walked over to her grave alone. Well, girl, you set me up good and proper, didn't you? Now, this was your idea, so I don't want you getting upset with me over it. I think you're right, though. Dee will make a great mother for the girls. Look, Shirley, you do realize what you've done here? Dee is going to want some children of her own sometime, so don't you dare hold it against me when we get all cozy with each other. Well, I'd better go now, but I'll be back with the girls in a couple of weeks. Dee and I are going away tomorrow for a week or so, but I'll tell you all about it when we get back. Bye for now, babe. 10 minutes later, I was standing before that same altar again, but this time I had switched places with Russell. I have to admit, I was surprised that my entire family had shown up. I think that was Catherine's doing. She can be very persuasive. What puzzled me was that 8 of my workers were all dressed in identical new suits, which was unusual unless they got a bulk deal, which I doubted. They were sitting at the ends of the pews by the aisles, not with their families. I suspected something was amiss. As the service ended, all 8 got up and left the church before Dee and I started our procession out. As we walked through the main door, we were confronted by the guys standing in 2 neat lines, long-handled shovels at the shoulder. Someone called out a command, and the shovels first went to the present, and then into a line of arches for Dee and me to walk under. You rascals! I said to them as we stopped under the arches while the photographer took pictures. We ain't finished yet, Raj, one of them whispered back. I wondered what they had planned next. Then we had the usual photo call. During this, Dee received a large bouquet of flowers. When the photographer finished and we started toward the waiting limousine, Dee suddenly stopped. Will you wait here for me a moment, Roger? There's something I need to do now. Please don't move. I watched as Dee walked over to Shirley's grave and placed the bouquet beside the one I had left before the wedding. She stood there alone for a few moments, speaking softly, though no one could hear her. Then she signaled to my girls, who joined her, and placed their small bouquets on their mother's grave. Now I realized where the 3 bouquets came from at Estelle's wedding. It was obvious if I had only thought about it. Once Dee rejoined me, we continued toward the limousine, only to see it drive away as we approached. It was replaced by my old Bedford van. The last time I saw it was 3 weeks earlier, when the guys decided our yard needed a cleanup. I thought it had gone to the scrapyard. Now it stood there, looking better than ever, with bright new paint, ribbons hanging from the ladders on the roof rack, and a uniformed chauffeur at the wheel. The boys opened the sliding side door, revealing the back had been fitted with a sofa for Dee and me to sit on. It's a convertible, boss. If you get impatient, just pull the lever under the arm, and you've got a bed, one of the boys whispered with a smile. With smiles all around, Dee and I climbed inside. The sliding door was locked open for the short drive to the hotel where the reception was held. That night, Dee and I spent our first night together as husband and wife. I woke up at some ungodly hour to the sound of Dee sobbing. What's wrong, babe? I asked. What a foolish, uninspired way to ask her. Nothing. I'm just so happy, but I'm annoyed with myself for how I behaved toward you. I thought you would wait forever. Well, we're together forever now, so stop dwelling on the past, I said as I took her in my arms and kissed her. Our past was never mentioned again. The girls started calling Dee Mother very quickly. They only ever called Dee Mother and never Mommy, which they reserved for Shirley. Whose idea that was, I don't know. But Dee often asked the girls how Mommy would do something and then followed suit. Several years passed before that familiar signal sounded again. We were all watching a video one evening when the telephone rang. Our eldest answered it while I paused the video. Who's calling? I heard my daughter ask. Mother, it's for you. Someone called Portia. Dee took the phone from my daughter, pressed the speakerphone button, and set the handset down. Hi, Portia. How are you keeping? Oh, Dee, it's wonderful to hear your voice. I'm in a real state. I caught George running around on me, so I'm getting divorced. I really need to meet up with you for a chat. We could get together like old times. Well, yes, I suppose I could meet you for lunch. Hold on a moment while I check my diary, Dee said as she picked up her handbag. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Dee was going to reconnect with Portia. Dee saw the astonished look on my face and smiled. What's the date today? Dee asked, not directed at anyone in particular. The 3rd of August, came Portia's voice from the phone. How about the 6th of August, 2026? Dee said. I might be free that day. Did you say 2026, Dee? That's 20 years away. You must be joking, Portia replied. No, Portia, I'm quite serious. All our 3 children should be out of the house by then, so I should have time for lunch with you. 3 children? I thought Roger only had 2. No, actually, Roger and I have 2 and a bit at the moment. There's a chance it could be 2 and 2 bits twins running my family. Goodbye, Portia. Call me in about 20 years. With any luck, we'll have changed our phone number by then. Dee switched off the phone and sat back with a silly grin on her face. Our 2 girls were quicker to understand and started to laugh. Suddenly, I realized what Dee had said to Portia. Twins? I asked. Well, that's what the doctor thinks, but it's a little early to be sure yet, Dee replied. I was hoping to know for sure before I told you and the girls.